Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I have a stack of books here that need to go, and by that I mean I have 4 that need to go back to the library and 1 that I promised my sister I would send her as soon as I was done. So we're going to talk about these, and it should be a shorter video because I have some DNFs in this pile. So let's get started. Okay, well, the first one I'm going to talk about is Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. So Trevor, this is kind of his memoir in South Africa. I have heard so many good things about this book, and so I had very high hopes for it. And I ended up giving it 2 stars. So Goodreads, 2 stars means it was okay. That's 3 stars for Amazon. But it was okay. So however you want to look at it, I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it. It was okay. And for those that really don't know, South Africa is probably like more of the, it's more well-to-do in South Africa. So a lot of times I would talk to people that have come from Africa. I really want to adopt from Africa. That has been like my childhood dream. I have talked to people that, I have talked to missionaries that have come through there. I have talked to people that used to live there and come here. So everything that he was sharing about his culture was nothing new to me. The thing about South Africa is that it is probably the closest thing you're going to find to United States in another world. It is very heavily Western influenced, and it has, like it's discussed in here, it has a lot of the like racial things that we deal with today. It has insofar as like poverty and well-to-do and things like that. It has a lot of that in here. You have different classes. Like it is a lot. It's not as much of a struggling society as we think of when we think of third world countries. So again, that information was not new. What Trevor Noah is talking about mainly in his book is basically what it's like to be a colored man in South Africa. And there's a difference between your black South African and your white South African and your colored. And so it's kind of, again, a lot of the same things that we deal with today. Blacks don't want the colored and the whites don't want the colored. It's either or, and the in-between is kind of an outcast. And so it's just how he lives life and goes through life, being this kind of thing. He has a very interesting mom who does not want to fit into any kind of box, and so breaks all the rules to go outside those boxes to live the life that she wants. Trevor Noah came into this world because the mother decided that she wanted a child, so she approached a white man that she knew, and I'm not saying that she loved him. She's just like, you're intelligent, give me a kid. You don't have any responsibilities for him. I just want a kid, and I want to break rules and have a colored boy. And so that's how he is. She ends up later marrying a very abusive man and has 2 more kids, and then it's just this kind of story. So what made this an okay story for me is, again, there was nothing new in here. I learned nothing. The thing that really frustrated me is actually how he made light of everything until it got to a point where he didn't. And then it was all seriousness. But throughout the whole book, he just has this humorous view of life, which maybe for some people they would like that, but it's almost like we couldn't take him seriously for some of the things that were very ironic or very ridiculous going on. It's like we couldn't take it seriously. Oh, it's like this, laugh it off, whatever. And it was, I don't think a lot of people got that when they were reading it. I'm in my garage. The door is open. It keeps circulation going. But it does mean that I'm going to be constantly doing this for the flies. Anyway, so that I don't like his narrative. I just don't like the way he writes and does things. I have watched him on YouTube just to kind of get a perspective of things like this, and he does have like this laughing it off kind of personality. So another thing in here is that pretty much every paragraph, it feels like, or at least every page, drops some kind of cuss word. So you get to the point where you're just kind of rolling your eyes getting through it. And so I think that took away a little bit of it. There was several things in here that I did want to remember that he said, and I put those down. I really did like a lot of those. Each time he opens like a different chapter or a different section, he kind of goes either back into his childhood and kind of presents something before he goes into the story, like an example, or he gives some kind of history thing. And those, I found those a little bit interesting. But so anyway, it was okay. Like, I've talked about that long enough. That was that book. It was I don't know. I feel like I was missing something that everybody really liked with that. Maybe I am. I don't know. If you want another like African story to open up, I know this is like maybe not the best place to film, but the lighting's really good. It's also quiet. So I'm going to be doing this. I don't know what I can edit out, but whatever. Anyway, something that I really, really enjoyed was African history that I don't think is shared much about, and I'm going to plug that book in. It's called Ghost Boy, and it's about the albino Africans that are basically hunted down so they can be sacrificed, and they're like good luck and things like that, and how these albinos are hunted. And it was, again, interesting because a gal here, I was telling her about the story, and she's like, oh, when we were in Africa, I think it was Kenya, or Tanzania. I think I'm saying that right. But anyway, when she went over there with her church, she was like, yeah, the church was kind of protecting these kids. So she's like, yeah, it's true. What? So Ghost Boy, I don't remember the author. I'll put it right here, but it's basically how they're hunted and how they hide and what other Africans do to either help them or betray them. So that was really interesting. Okay, well, let's get a DNF out of the way. I picked this up not really knowing too much about it. So it was at the library, it was on the shelf. It was a one-word title, which I needed to do to complete the a challenge that the library was having to read certain, the summer reading programs with you. This is like a modern retelling of Jane Eyre, and it is just a YA. I had glanced through it briefly, but I really didn't get too much into it. I did know that it was a dropout from college that it needs money, so she becomes a nanny for a rock star's kid. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be a little interesting, maybe some language. But I had started reading it, and I was like, okay, this is... I could already see like this predictable plot going in, which it's Jane Eyre, so it's not like you don't know, but all authors kind of put their own twist on this. So her sister, so her parents died, and she's like the outcast of the family. She wasn't supposed to be there, and they all let her know that. And so her parents die, and the estate's closed. She doesn't get anything, and one brother takes and leaves. That's all I know about him. But the sister, we get a lot more about her. So I'm like, okay, well, she's gonna be kind of coming back in as a character. Her sister wants to be in Hollywood and be around these people. I'm like, okay, I know exactly where this is going. It's very predictable. But anyway, I got, I don't know, 3 chapters in, and I went on Goodreads, kind of put it in as I'm reading this so I can keep track of everything. I see that it has like 2,000 reviews, and I was like, wow, for so many reviews, it doesn't have a high rating. That generally means I'm going to like it because it's YA, okay? YA with not a high rating, it usually means that there wasn't enough stuff that I really don't want to read about, and I'm okay with this. So, okay, so I'm reading reviews, and one review is not, she's like, I can't believe this is called a YA, and I'm like, okay, now you've got my interest. Why? And she's like, view spoilers, all this stuff going into it, and she's like, I've only made it to page 200, and why is she having intimacy with, and I'm like, okay, well, no, I don't want to read it anymore. So that was a DNF. If you want to do it, it's a YA retelling of Jane Eyre, watching a rock star kid. The crazy wife in there was on drugs. She was found, so she's like reading all these newspapers. And so there's other things, and again, I was like, okay, that's where they're going to go with this, blah, 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 whatever. So yeah, I'm just not going to go into that anymore. So let's move on to one that was really good. This actually has a funny story. So I had this in my Amazon cart. I've been wanting to read it. It looked phenomenal. My daughter came home with a stack of books that she got at the library, and I saw this book on top, and I was like, where did you get that? She's like, it's a new release that the library had. And I'm like, I want to read that. Y'all, it was so good. It was so, so good, and I want to know more about the Lithuanian history, because that's what happens. This takes place in Lithuania, and this is about the Russians, so this is like 18-something, because World War I happens later. But this happens when Russia basically starts taking over and basically canceling out Lithuanian history, religion, and even their language, and they burned their books. They can only do the German books. Most of them can't even read. Reading is dangerous, and it's about this girl's parents who kind of like have this undercover or underground, they're book smugglers, and they are sharing history and Lithuanian culture and preserving everything and sharing it with those that will read it. So it's very fascinating. She is a very scared kind of girl, very been protected and sheltered, and something happens and she kind of has to just do hard things. And her hard things, the reason she's doing it is so she can get her parents back and everything can go back to normal, and it doesn't always work out that way. This was phenomenal. I think more people should read this, especially in homeschools, because it talks about the dangers of cancel culture. I know that's really big right now, and I'm not completely sure I could say 100% what it's all about, but it's basically the dangers of deciding what is and what isn't allowed, what we teach, what we try to hold fast or suppress, and it's just about one thing that I just took away, and it just hit me so hard, is that there's an elderly man who had been working on this for like 30 years, and he's still working on this, and he said, you know, one day I'm going to see Lithuania free from Russian tyranny, and if it takes 100 years, so be it. I just would love to see a glimpse of it before I die. And you just think about that. You think about how far we have to fight against tyranny, and how somebody is willing to go and do that, even if he may not be around to see the victory. Like, that was, whew, but really, really good one. Lots of fantastic quotes in that. I have two more books here, so let's get on to the next DNF, which was kind of surprising to me, and I bet I could push through it, but I'm just not going to. I have so many stacks of books I need to do. I'm not going to push through it. It's Christopher Paul Curtis. So this is Journey of Little Charlie. So he wrote The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. He did Elijah Buxton, and the sequel, which I don't know what that is. Those two that I mentioned, I don't know what the sequel is called, so the Watsons and Buxton, there were some things that I struggled with. They were good books, but there were some things I struggled with, and I would only allow like my older readers to read them. And even still, I would be careful, because especially in like Watson's Go to Birmingham 1963, the boys like try to do the things that they're not supposed to. So they're trying to say the bad language where mom can't hear. They are doing things that they're not supposed to do as long as they don't get caught. And it's just that kind of suggestion that my boys don't need. We're already fighting against some of that. I don't need somebody else to present that thing. So, and then Elijah Buxton just has some hard topics. And I think this is going to be, but let me say this. We love Bud Not Buddy, and I loved, we haven't read it as a family yet, but I also love The Mighty Miss Malone. Those were phenomenal. Love those. Those are favorites here. Bud Not Buddy, I don't think I could count on two hands how many times we read that. That's how many times that it's been read or listened to or whatever. So this one, I was kind of unsure of where it would go. So it's about a boy whose father was a sharecropper. He died, and then basically somebody is coming to collect money that they don't have. This person makes a deal that, hey, if you help me catch criminals, you can pay off your debt. And that's what I got by reading this. And everything catching thieves is what it says on the back. But anyway, okay, this could be interesting. I'm assuming they're slaves. I kind of put all this together. I got, I want to say, page 58, so it's about that far. And it's not written in a language that would be easy to do as a read aloud. So think of reading Uncle Tom's Cabin out loud with the southern and the misspelling and just kind of things that you had to figure out what they're saying. So it's not read aloud friendly. The dad said a couple things that I furrowed my brows on, like, that's not okay. And it was something that I think many people would find offensive. Pages, but whatever. Just a belief he had, that kind of demeanored. It wasn't blacks, but it was just demeanoring. The mom is a sniveling, weak woman. And Charlie's 12. He's 12. And so he's kind of with his mom, but then he's like, no, I'm going to stand up and be a man. And the person that they owe money to is a horrible man. Think Simon Legree. Horrible. And so there was no language, but there was nothing that makes me want to read more. Okay? Mom is just weak and groveling, and dad is dead. And by the way, dad died horribly, and it's described. Dad was chopping down a tree, hit something, the axe, they're talking about this, they're explaining it, but the axe head falls off, cuts dad, and the boy has to carry dad to the doctor, and how all that went down. And I'm just like, I don't really want to go into this with kids. That's as far as I got, and I was done. So if someone wants to tell me, okay, it gets better halfway on, maybe someday I'll pick it up and read it. But the next video you're going to see is a book haul. So I got plenty to read. But let's talk about this one. This is another 5-star read. Amazing. The Night Diary. Again, another one that I had in my Amazon cart to get. And I was so excited when I found it at my library. And so this one kind of tells the story. I think it was 1947 when the British leave India. Like, they're out now. We're not going to take over. We're not going to be in charge. were out, and the fallout from that. So Gandhi's in here trying to keep peace between the Muslims, the Hindus, and I think it's Sakis? It was somebody that or a group of Sikhs that I've never heard of them. Sikhs. I'm going to assume that's Sikhs, whatever, them. And Gandhi's trying to keep peace between them. You have British Parliament trying to decide what to do. You've got Muslims trying to decide what they want, and then Hindus trying to decide how they're going to co-live in India. Well, what happens is this girl and her twin brother live an Indian life. Their dad is a doctor, well-to-do. They have a servant that's, it's like a second dad to them. Their grandmother lives with them, and they're kind of just caught into the middle of this. They agree. The one girl, how this whole book, she is writing in a diary that was given to her, and she's writing to her dead mother, kind of trying to make a connection, trying to have closure for that. And she's just telling what happened. Ninjas are coming out. Okay. She's just trying to describe day-to-day life and this transition in time of India now splitting. And it's about the mass migration of the Hindus, the Muslims, and the Sikhs as they kind of go into different parts of the country. So now India is split into New India and Pakistan. And so that's kind of all this, the mass murdering that was happening, everybody blaming everybody else for what was going on, and death and all of this. And I think at the end she was talking about how this was her grandfather. She was trying to write what happened with her grandparents, and she was saying that their grandparents had it much easier than this person had, or this family in the book had it, and they had it better than many people had it. But she was saying that there were millions migrating to the different parts, and an estimated 1 million that died, just from all the horrificness of it. There is no language, by the way. That's another thing about these two books that I'm highly recommending. I'm noticing that a lot of middle grade books and YA, I think both of these are middle grade, they're starting to put language in there. None of these have language. That's a plus for me. But in this one, there is a little bit of gruesome. I think it's done really well. We've done like War Horse and things like that. I would, if you can do War Horse, you'll be fine with this. Let's see. Just, oh my goodness, some of the lines in here were just beautiful, heart-wrenching sayings. Like, the day we almost died was the happiest day of my life. And once you know what had happened, like, it's beautifully horrific thing. And then at midnight, we were no longer India. We were now Pakistan. Everything I know was no longer home. I mean, there's just things like this that are just so beautiful. So I really recommend this one. Definitely, if you can get these, put them in your homeschool library, read them. I think it's the kind of history that we need to know. I mean, I want to know more about Lithuania, and I want to know more about how Pakistan came about. Why is it, I know I teach history to the kids, why is it that I never made that connection between India separating from Pakistan and what Gandhi was fighting for? We went through Gandhi. Just mind craziness how you teach something but nothing connects you like a living book. Nothing connects things like a living book. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I don't know how much of it I can condense. I mean, 5 books, 30 minutes, 6 minutes a book. I think I'm doing okay. But we got to get better about this because it's just, you know, getting long and long and long. So your next video that you get to see will be a book haul. Excited to share some of these books with you. So if you're new to my channel and you want to see what those are, click the subscribe button so you can see that video when it pops up in your subscription feed. And if you've read any of these, if you like any of these, leave them down below, especially the ones that maybe I DNF'd, if you've read them and have thoughts on that. Also, I know I had a very different opinion of this book than so many people out there. So let's chat in the comments below. Until next time, have another cup of coffee and read another chapter. Bye.